And we're live.
We're live.
So good morning everyone, and welcome again to another class here with ourselves, both myself, Anthony Middleton, and with Isabel Slingerland, who's currently now behind the camera, just observing the flow of people coming to visit us this morning.
And making sure the camera doesn't go off again.
And making sure that they don't all break like they did last night during the massage tutorial. So a quick note again just before we do kick off, the reminder that this is a donations-based practice, so there's no charge for viewing this, but we do ask that if you enjoy the practice or afterwards you feel there's some value to it, then if you could contribute to the donations page. The links are on the bio pages and also on our websites. But this morning we're doing a Hatha Yoga practice, or a dynamic Hatha Yoga practice. The word dynamic is there essentially just to set ourselves those challenges within this practice. So sometimes we maybe have an understanding of Hatha Yoga as being perhaps the slightly less dynamic or the slightly less abrasive as maybe the Vinyasa flow practices. But actually dynamic Hatha or a Hatha Yoga practice in many respects can be quite challenging for the body to maintain posture for some time. So keep that throughout your body, throughout your practice this morning. Set yourself those challenges. How can I remain in the posture? How can I possibly deepen my posture? How can I deepen my understanding and awareness of my body? That's ultimately what we're trying to do here. So we're going to start off with a basic breathing practice. Now for this I'm going to perch myself onto my little cushion here. If you don't have this kind of a cushion here at home, don't worry about it. Any cushion will do. Or you could always use a brick or a book if you have one of those to hand. And I'm just going to sit myself into a Virasana position, so sitting onto my shins. Now, for some people, sitting on shins like this will not be comfortable, and that's perfectly understandable. Everyone's pelvis and knees are built in different ways. So feel free to adjust this position as you feel fit. You might even prefer to bring yourself into a cross-legged position for this opening. So feel free to go with whichever option you prefer to go with. And just rest the backs of your hands down onto your thighs, perhaps, maybe palms down, whatever feels most comfortable for you. And find a tallness to the spine. And let's draw the eyes into closing. So our focus here is moving our focus, our attention, into feeling, rather than the desire to see ourselves in, if we do have a mirror available. But instead using that ability to feel your body and what's going on in your body as the most important source of information throughout your practice today. Just notice how your breathing naturally sits in your body. How geographically does it sit in your body? Are we more breathing into the chest? Do we find the breath moving into the belly? Can we feel that expansion and movement into the side ribs? And then let's start to feel that we can step into a position of almost controlling that breath. So the idea of Pranayama, controlling the breathing, controlling the shifting and movement of the attention of that breath, and ultimately the energy in our practice, shifting that through the body. Now it may be that you're aware of Ujjayi Pranayama back at home. So if you are aware of that, maybe starting to integrate that into your practice. If you're not sure what Ujjayi Pranayama means, just simply start to elongate both your inhalation and your exhalation, deepening the breathing, and a very, almost barely perceptible sound of the ocean or a whisper in the back of the throat. And that whisper should be something that you almost feel you're keeping for yourself as a precious gift to your practice, that sound of your breathing. So not needing to work really strong and send the sound of your breath out all over the room, but keeping it something very internal, to keep that focus introspective. Trying to equalize both length of inhalation and exhalation. And as we start to feel that we can maintain or sustain that nice fluid circular movement of our breathing, let's allow the eyes to open, come forwards towards an all-fours position. Shift aside your books, your props, whatever you've been using here. Bring your shoulders directly over your wrists, your hips over your knees. Let's have the toes tucked in preparation of moving to a down dog very soon. But just tuning in here in this all fours position, how can I find and re-establish that nice soft, smooth pranayama? In my all fours position, I have the ribs gently lifting towards the spine so they're not descending and hanging down. My internal organs aren't all hanging down towards the floor. I have a mild contraction into those tissues wrapping between the rib cage and the pelvis to keep those abdominals and those organs stabilized. So it's a mild contraction into the rectus abdominis and those deep core muscles. Now from here I'm going to start to press a little more weight into those hands, and you maybe see there on the camera my upper spine starts to curve. And as I curve, I'm rounding into the whole back here, letting the back of the pelvis just drop away. So there's a mild feeling of almost tucking tailbone, but not feeling that there's enough tuck here to really engage too much into the buttocks. I'm going to push through the feet, hover the knees. So I'm working a little more intense here into those shoulders, into the hips, the thighs, the legs, and I'm slowly going to send the pubic bone through the thighs to find my way back to Ardha Mukha Svanasana. Now this is maybe your first down dog of your day, so feel free, take your time, tread into your ankles, or feel free to remain in a little bit more of a static position there, just gently falling to the ground, maybe even 2 heels rise and fall. But what feels right for your body? What helps you access a little bit of a greater ease into the backs of your legs? Pay attention here to what's going on in your arms as well. So I'm not overextending those shoulder joints. I'm keeping them a little bit closed so I feel like I'm really in control of my weight through my arms. And you can test that by even alleviating one hand at a time away from the floor. So I've got this control and stability through the shoulder joint. And then slowly I'm going to walk the feet forwards. As they come forward, I'm going to keep the hands onto the floor. So if I need to, I'm going to have to bend those knees a little bit there. But I'm keeping my weight onto the floor and making sure that I can press through all 4 points of connection with the floor. And I'm breathing like a giant lung into this position. Rising away from floor, feeling extension into elbows and knees. Exhalation, softening down, relaxing spine. Also notice here as I push through the feet and the hands, the spine can lengthen slightly. Exhalation, softening down. Inhalation, creating space, decompress around all the joints. Exhalation. You might even be able to notice there as I'm pressing with my inhale, I'm even extending energy through the toes. So the toes just lift, what we might call active feet. Soften elbows, knees, ankles. Breath in. And breath out. Now from here, bend those knees a little bit more. Transition the weight away from your hands. And I'm rounding the spine. Now notice as you round the spine here, temptation is to let the belly hang. So I'm just going to lift the organs into the spine. Lift the front ribs into the back of the spine. That's deepening the rounding. You can see there I'm persistently playing with the pressure in my feet. And I'm slowly, you can see here, rolling up. So find your way to come up to standing. Notice my knees don't lock. I'm letting those joints stabilize by keeping the workload into the muscle. Roll your shoulders up to the ears and back. And then just stand up tall, Tadasana. Long back of the neck. For some people, the sensation of just lifting the skin on the front of the throat through to the back of the neck and lifting skyward will give you that feeling of lengthening into the neck. Space underneath the armpits. So I'm standing here tall, checking in with that breathing, letting gravity fall through my structure, balancing workload with softness. Roll your shoulders back one more time and then roll thumbs out. Take a breath in, arms come forwards and upwards, feeling the movement and stretch through the tissues on side body, front and even back. Exhale, soften your knees. Now keep the spine drawn down the back here, which sounds a little weird, but I'm thinking about those shoulder blades moving down. So I'm stabilising the back as I take that forward bend over softening knees. Now lean into your hands. Let's step the left foot back. So I'm going to reach it back in space, find that moment of suspension and balance. I'm in control of my weight. I'm going to let the toe sink, let the knee sink. Anjaneyya. Sink forwards into that right foot, press into the right foot, and come up into your lunge. Now maybe you want to move that left knee a little further back, if that feels better for this front leg. But I'm going to bring the arms forwards and up to the sky. Now you may find that your Anjaneyya, you feel you have a lot more capacity to sink. But what I'm going to ask you to do this morning is perhaps draw back a little away from that space. So I'm now working into the stabilisation of this right thigh. I'm going to push the foot down, and I'm thinking of lifting even pressure out from that left knee. So perhaps even for those of us who are a little stronger in the legs, you might even lift the knee away from the floor. I'm scissoring the legs, right thigh is drawing back, left thigh and hip moving forwards, breathing steady. So now Hatha Yoga, we're staying in a little bit longer in these positions, breathing steady, stabilising. We're trying to find what we might understand as that idea of fitness, where the body can do more, can work more, but the breath itself can be soft and easy. And then I'm going to sink that back knee down into the floor. Bring the hands forward. Let's move the right foot just out of the way that you can place the hand down and step into plank. Move the heart forward. I'm softening knees, ankles, not over tensing buttocks. Option to lower those knees. Chaturanga. Take your next breath in for a roll of the shoulders and an opening of the chest. Now here you may find you want to untuck the toes and perhaps even think of gently pushing the front surface of the feet down. You can see that lifts my knees. So I'm energizing this position, working in a very low cobra here, into my Surya Namaskar but broken down. Take your next breath in, move the heart forward. And with your exhale, release your way down, tuck your toes. Take your breath in, hug the ribs inwards. So find a strength there from the backs of the arms. And then tucking those toes and finding my way back, downward facing dog, Ardha Mukha Svanasana. I'm settling into that position. Perhaps there's some snaking of the hips, perhaps there's a little bit more static positioning. And I'm holding those armpits inwards, not overstretching. And here you can see my knees are bending, but I may start to work to push the shins or the knees back to lengthen the legs, but making sure that doesn't come at the cost of then curving the spine there. So I'm keeping lower spine lengthened and just gently pushing heels back. My next breath in, I'm going to lift those heels, bend the knees and look forward. I have the options here to walk or take little mini jumps or one big jump towards the front of the mat. I'm going to bring my feet again just slightly wider than hip width apart. Take a breath in, slide the fingers up the shins and hug the ribs inwards. So I'm searching for a nice long spine here. With my exhale, diving down. Bend your knees, roll up. Take your time, feel that journey through the spine. Keep those knees soft. Open up the chest. Breath in, rolling shoulders back, thumbs open. Carry the arms forwards and upwards. Lift out from the waist. Exhalation, soften your knees. Now keep the spine nice and strong here as we fold, hinging from the waist. This is teaching us to not overstress those small spinal muscles. And coming forward, working from the legs. Take the breath in. Let's slide the fingers up the shins here. Move the weight forward. Maybe even lift out from those legs. Find a moment of balance. Soften back down. Hands find the floor. Let's lean into your left foot here. We're stepping right leg backwards. So I'm reaching back. Here we've got the glutes working, so the back of the leg and the hamstring all working here to keep that leg elevated. And I'm taking my time. I'm feeling that bounciness that comes to this position. I'm going to soften, right toes back, knee comes down. Anjaneyya, spread the left foot, come on up. Find your arms into the sky, again slightly in front of the body. So I'm not bringing them back here. You can see what that does to my ribs. It flares me out. So I'm going to keep them forward, gently pressing into that front foot, and again, lift a little away from the depth of your super stretch. And we find now that that leg and hip is working a lot stronger in stability. And maybe I can even push and lift that back knee away from the floor. But I'm breathing steady. I'm maintaining the position that works best for me. And then with my next exhalation, hands can come forward. I'm going to move that left foot aside and I'm stepping back into plank position. Hugging in the ribs, step back. Soften the knees. Move the heart forward. Hug the ribs in. Take a breath in, move forward. Exhalation, Chaturanga. Inhale, low cobra or spinal arch. Thinking here that the nose may lift, so I'm smelling out into space a little bit there, but I'm not thinking of shortening the neck. So I've got length into the neck. Maybe gentle push down of feet, lifting knees. One more steady breath in. Here, separate the front ribs from the pubic bone, and your exhale releases you down. Tuck your toes underneath, roll shoulders back. With your next exhalation, hug the ribs in, using those abdominals to help bring me back through an almost planking position. And then I'm finding my way back. Adho Mukha Svanasana, downward facing dog. Again, start by setting yourself into a position where you can start the journey of exploration. Rather than bounce yourself back into the deepest position you can, find yourself into the position and grow. Check in on your breathing. Are you able to find that nice smooth Ujjayi Pranayama, that sound of the whispering ocean in the back of your own throat, keeping that practice at the centre of your practice? Now from here we're going to reach the right leg backwards in space. Just flex the foot, kick the heel far away, hug the ribs in. With exhale, let's draw that right knee forwards, but it's going to come to the outside edge of the elbow and keep the foot hovering. Breath in, send the leg back. With your exhale, curving spine, hugging the ribs in, draw the knee forward. This is preparation to help us learn to step forward into a lunging position. One more time here, exhale, curving spine. Now from here, just lean into your left hand, slight hug, as if you're coming to side plank. And that's going to help me step my foot forwards. I'm going to soften the back knee, look slightly out in front, and come forwards with your weight, step forward with the left foot. Breath in, slide fingers up the shins, and your exhale dives you back down. Now this time bend your knees, Utkatasana, chair position. I'm sitting down, I'm hugging the ribs in, and I'm finding this chair-like position. Now as you can see here, I'm going to try and hug the ribs in rather than over-flaring. I'm letting the spine and the lower back be slightly arched and lengthened. I'm not thinking of curving and tucking under, I'm allowing the sit bones to move back. And then from here, I'm going to lift on my way back up. Mild arch perhaps. Breath in to open up space into the front body. Exhale, forward bend. Breath in, push the feet into the floor, slide the fingers up the shins. Exhalation, diving down. Lean into your left foot, your right leg is floating back. I'm reaching back, and then I'm going to step my way back into planking position. So I'm stepping my way back into that plank, move the heart forward. Your exhale, Chaturanga. Inhale, opening up the chest, and your exhale, hug the ribs in, move back downward facing dog. So we're going to take that same little pump action that we had on that previous side, just to kind of work into that step forward with lunges. So your left leg floats. Your right ankle is sinking perhaps to the floor. Equal pressure through the hands, not overstretching the armpits, but keeping the shoulders in the socket for stability. With your exhale, curve spine, draw the left knee to elbow or outer elbow. Breath in, send the leg back. Exhale, curving spine, draw the knee to outer elbow. Breath in,
And exhale, last time here, curving spine, draw that knee forward, lean into your right hand and hug the ribs in, step forward. Now adjusting that back knee, so I'm softening, stepping forward. Take a breath in, slide fingers up the shins, and your exhale dives you down. Bend your knees, roll up through the spine, feel the sponginess, the springiness of the legs as we come all the way up to standing. Roll shoulders to ears and back. Now from here, let's lean into that right foot. So perhaps I'll turn this way for this little action so you can see it a little easier. I'm going to lean into that right foot and I'm climbing up into the balance. I'm not sinking down into the hip. I'm climbing up and floating the knee. So I'm floating that left knee up to the sky. Left arm circles back. Now notice here my breastbone is dropping down. So I'm not lifting up this way. This part of the body is lifting, the pelvis, but the chest softens down. That helps me work with the core stability of the body. I'm going to gently rest the right hand onto the outer knee and press the knee into the hand and the hand into the knee. That little counter pressure here in the center, you may feel, creates the ease of a deepening twist in your middle and upper spine. So I'm finding that extension. Maybe I even look up and out. Maybe I reach with fingers. I'm still flexing this left foot. And you can see my standing leg isn't locked. I have softness here. So that's helping me to work into the stability of that leg. I'm going to come back through the center, cross the thighs, and sit down. Utkatasana with the legs bound in an eagle bind of the legs. So I've got that left thigh crossing over the right. Breathing steady. How much can we sink here? Can we think of letting the pubic bone go through the thighs and backwards? So I'm broadening the surface of the lower back. Thinking about trying to move the left leg out towards that left side, right leg out to the right. So that counter pressure again creates the stability. Lifting out from this position, and we're going to tap that left heel onto the floor at 12 o'clock, then at 9 o'clock on a clock, and toes back to 6 o'clock, into lunge. Breath in, lift the chest. Now maybe even you want to lift a little higher into this lunge position. Doesn't need to be so low. I'm thinking of lifting up the skin on the front body. My pubic bone and pelvis remains where it is. So I'm trying to drag the soft tissue around the bones. I'm pushing now a little forwards. And that's opening up that left hip flexor a little bit. So I'm finding that stretch into the left hip flexor. Now from here, I'm just going to start to sink a little further. Maybe relax that left ankle. So you can see the leg bones moving backwards as I sink deeper. That's going to increase the stretch into that left hip flexor area. Now I'm going to continue softening the left knee. Hands come down. I'm going to start to twist towards the left side. I'm twisting to the left, dropping the foot down. So I have my sword fighting position or preparation for warrior two legs, but I'm sinking over two bent legs. I'm now going to push from the back leg and move forwards. Baddha Konasana. Now option number one, forearm into the thigh, and I'm reaching out. Option two, to work into those legs for stability, hover. And bring the arms out. It doesn't matter where they are. That design doesn't mean anything in terms of what's going on in the legs. But maybe it feels better to send your legs or arms in some direction. So feel what works best. How can we perhaps deepen if we want to challenge? Maybe it's a heel toe of that left foot. Further back. Now here's the next challenge. To come from a deep Baddha Konasana, I'm going to move the right shoulder up and out into space. I'm going to move the left foot forward and climb into half moon balance. Not an easy transition, and you may be hopping around at home. I almost hopped here, but I managed to just about soften enough into the joints to stabilize. Softened joints will help you with stability, not locked and solidified joints. I'm flexing, however, that left foot. So I have an extensive reach of energy through that left foot. Spiral the body to the floor. Now slowly draw that left knee through and up. Breath in to lift the knee. Soften pubic bone down. So you get the hip crease and float the foot down. Take a breath in, open up chest to sky. Exhalation, forward bend. Take a breath in, slide the fingers up the shins. And your exhale, soften your knees. Just stay here in this ragdoll position. No need to step back and do vinyasa. Just let yourself be here. Let your breath come back to a nice, stable, easy flow. Relaxed neck. And then I'm slowly going to push into those feet, roll up. Now if the rolling up feels uncomfortable for the spine, you may prefer to go with those shoulders coming down the back and hinge. So notice if rolling up aggravates the spine, then the hinging from the waist may be better for you. So come on up to standing, roll shoulders back and lift up through those legs. Now this time we're coming over to that left side, so I'm lifting up onto the balance. So this is actually in the manual therapy context, this would be what we call a Trendelenburg test. So I'm going to come up and lift up onto the leg. So I'm climbing up with that right leg. Pubic bone is dropping down. So I'm softening into that right hip crease. I'm flexing the foot perhaps to give myself some feeling of energy into that right leg. Then I'm spiraling, body to the right. I'm going to allow my sternum, the breastbone, to drop down, and I'm still lifting up that right leg, pubic bone also dropping down. I gently press right hand into the outer right thigh, and right thigh, also left hand, and I'm using that to help spiral me further round. Notice my standing leg is soft, is bouncy, it has the capacity to move. So we're not a static structure, we're not a sculpture, we're not a statue. We're a watery living organism, so we want to have that same fluidity that a tree has when it's blown in the wind, that it can come back to its stability. And that's a principle called Tensegrity, which I won't really go into right now. Now from here I'm going to lift that right arm up, cross the thighs over, and sink down. Utkatasana with bound legs. I'm sitting down here, I've got the legs actually trying to open up, which gives me that feeling of stability. Sinking into that position, being very careful here not to let the belly expand out here. I've got the rectus abdominis drawing the ribs down, and that's giving me some good stability onto the front body. Now I'm going to slowly lift out from this position, tap the heel, that's the right heel at 12 o'clock, now 3 o'clock, and back to 6 o'clock. Arms coming up, lift up out from the lunge, then soften that left knee again. Arms coming a little further forward. Now again, I'm thinking of lifting up the skin, but moving the pubic bone down and forwards. So that's going to help me gain a stretch into the right hip flexor. And I'm opening up that space, slowly relaxing into the right ankle. So you can see my heel there moving backwards, just gently searching for a little more length. And you may find that brings even a stretch into the lower back of the leg, the calf area. And then from here, I'm going to soften that right knee. Hands coming down, and then I'm twisting to the right. So I'm going to take myself on that circle towards the right. The left knee stays where it is, but the right foot pivots and drops. So I'm here in my sword fighting position, Pirates of the Caribbean style. And then I'm thinking of gently sinking down and pushing from the back leg. That's directing me into this very deep Baddha Konasana. You can see my knee is coming over here. Now if that is causing you great discomfort into the knee, then step further back and let the weight fall through this position here. If we're more here, we're going to put some stress into that quadricep. Very valuable to do, to tighten and work into those quads, but if it's not comfortable for the knee, then feel free to go back. I'm going to move into that Baddha Konasana. Perhaps left forearm onto the thigh, and then extending out. Finding that length, that space. Space to breathe. Pubic bone moving back towards that inner right ankle. Arms perhaps even hovering, reaching out into space. And as you reach that arm, you'll feel the hamstring stabilize, you'll feel the legs working. And then I'm extending the left side of the body, walking the foot forwards, enough that I can fly up into balance. And then I keep going with my weight forwards to find that angle for my half moon balance. And I'm flying, I'm floating, I'm free in this position. My right heel is still flexing, so I've got energy in this back leg, but I'm softening into the left. And I'm going to start spiraling the body down. Spiral the body down, draw the right knee through and up to sky. Breathing in as you reach those arms up, use your exhale, float down. Arms reach up, open chest to sky. Exhalation, soften your knees, forward bend. Take your breath in, slide your fingers up your shins, move the heart forward. Exhalation, forward bend. Now step back with right foot, follow that with left. Come back to down dog. Thinking of moving pubic bone through the thighs, open up the armpits but not overstretching again. Send your right leg back in space. With exhalation, draw right knee forward, stepping into that lunge position. Now from here we're going to descend into a pigeon position. So I'm going to move that right foot across the mat, and then I'm slowly going to lean into right hand to let the shin lower. Find a comfortable position for you here. Now, if you find this gives you great discomfort into the knee, then sit your bum down and bend the back knee perhaps, and take the forward bend from here, much less stressful into the knees. But if you're feeling okay, keep yourself upright first. Thinking of energizing this position. So how does it feel to push the right thigh into the floor, the right shin and the knee down into the floor? So you feel the buttocks engaging here, in fact, to support you. Maybe even the back knee lifts. And as you feel that work tuning in, you feel the muscles, as they switch on, they then gain the understanding that this is contraction, and then I'm going to go release. Relaxation, and then maybe I can come further forwards. And finding that I can maybe fall that bit further. Careful here not to fall into the habit of just trying to curve and smack the head onto the floor, ribs still hugging in. It's still relatively early in the morning, also due to that 1 hour less sleep this evening, I believe it is, for the changeover from the hours, so you may find that you're a bit snoozy this morning. Perhaps your body's a little bit confused. So just give yourself some time to work out what's going on in this right hip. And then I'm slowly going to push through those hands, lift the chest. Walk the hands back, tuck the back toe underneath and kick the heel back. Now use here the rectus abdominis muscle, pulls the ribs down and in. Use that to help step you back, downward facing dog. Just let those heels settle. Feel for perhaps the change that's starting to occur in the tension of your body. Left leg reaches back. Deep breath in. With exhalation, curve the spine, come forward. Coming into that lunge position, and then we're moving into pigeon. Moving the left foot across, leaning into the hands. Let the shin find the floor. Now often people are way too concerned with the angle of this front leg. The angle that is appropriate for this front leg is the one that doesn't cause you pain. That's the angle. There is no specific design to this position. Everyone's knee and hip is different. So whatever works best here, to not put your knee into a position where it feels it's going to pop, that's the one that's for you. And it may be that you're sitting down like this, coming forwards. Either is a perfectly valuable gluteal stretch. So I'm going to move myself deeper into that position, lift myself up first, and let's start energetically. So I'm pushing left knee and outer shin down to the floor. So you see me even rise up a little there. I'm pushing through the back leg. Everything's engaging. The push of the right foot into the floor means that my buttocks are switching on a little bit. So I'm moving from a position of engagement, an isometric contraction here, and then I'm slowly going to release. And as I let go, now my muscle understands that I want it to relax. those groups of muscles go, okay, yeah, there's more space here to be had, there's more relaxation. And this is a principle in a muscle energy technique called post-isometric relaxation. So following a contraction in stillness or a held position, I relax the muscle, and we find that even the muscles can relax more than they thought they initially could. Checking in there with that breathing, so noticing there my breath a little stilted. So I'm finding the way to have the breath like I would prefer the mind to be, without disruption, without those interruptions that we have running through the mind. So I can focus in on my practice, follow the fluidity of breath, follow that gentle sensation of elongation, perhaps not even using the word stretch. Now I'm going to bring those hands back underneath the shoulders, lift the chest, and again here, to bring me back from this position is going to take a lot of work from the centre and the core of the body and from those front muscles around the abdominals. So I'm tucking the back toe, taking a breath in, and I'm using that exhale. Contract the ribs in and step your way back, downward facing dog. I'm relaxing the ankles, I'm pressing the upper thighs through to the back of the room. So I'm getting that extension and line to create space for the spine. Now from here, lifting your heels, curve the spine, come forwards, lower the knees, take chaturanga, lower down onto the front surface. Now I'm going to do a back bend first of all, just to begin tuning into the spinal muscle, and then we take one that's hopefully going to open up a little into your thigh area. So I'm going to start with the arms reaching back, just move my little cushion, roll collarbones away from the floor and lift the chest. Now at this point, notice if your buttocks are not engaging, and see if you can just gently start to elevate some engagement into the buttocks. And pressing the pelvis and pubic bone towards the floor and away from the ribs. So I'm creating lots of space into the lower back. Now maybe I can also start moving the toes further back. So by simply trying to create length and space, I'm contracting the back line of the body. You'll notice your calf muscle switched on by trying to reach your toes far away from the front of your ankle. And then I'm just lifting up perhaps that little bit higher. Now because I know my shoulders are a bit tense, I'm letting my arms relax. But if you feel like you want to, you can always work into those muscles here and lift your hands away from the floor. Breathe steady, opening the chest. And with your exhale, let's release. I'm going to turn my head to the left side just so I can maybe see you still, or see at least the cameras. Now the next position we're going to take is our Dhanurasana. Dhanurasana, opening up the chest, but also seeing if we can tune in here to create some space into the thighs and around the knee area. So I'm going to open up the collarbones, lift the chest, nose moves slightly forward, bend the knees, squeeze the bum lightly, lift the thighs away from the floor. Can we reach back and take the bind? Now that taking of the bind wants to be quite easy, less kind of wriggling around on your front. If you can't quite reach that, then don't take this Dhanurasana, just lift the legs. I'm going to flex the feet and start moving the thighs or the feet backwards and lift the knees. So I'm hopefully here now getting an elongation into the front of the thighs. I'm also opening up the chest, and I'm feeling that mild stretch across the chest. And I'm breathing into the belly. And breathing into the belly, you may find that you can get a rocking action going on. And then slowly I'm going to release. I'm going to keep a hold of the ankles here just to bring the heels closer to the bum. That helps me just give a little bit of sensation of lengthening to the front of the thighs. And then release. Let them go. Bring the hands underneath the shoulders. Hug the ribs in. So again, this is lots of work into the core stability to lift yourself up through that planking position. Move pubic bone backwards. Walk the hands back. Coming into Paschimottanasana. So for Paschimottanasana, a forward bend over two long legs. Don't worry about bringing the ankles to touch. That really is completely unnecessary. We're going to bring the hands back first though. Point through the feet. And I'm going to lift the chest. Now be careful here of ballooning out in space and lifting the chest, by creating space here in the back body, but I'm not thinking too much about pushing too far out. So I've got enough space to breathe, that I'm going to move those toes further forward and just lift the bum. I'm keeping the neck drawn in here, so I'm looking down towards the toes. That's training the front neck muscles to work. If you feel you can, you may want to go back. But for those people who have often very tense neck and shoulders, keeping your neck in here will be a good option to help train the front neck muscles and release or lengthen the back neck muscles. And slowly sinking down. Flex the toes back, come up to sit up. Now again, if you find that your hamstrings are quite tight, you can use your lovely cushion here just to lift yourself up a little bit. Maybe a book, maybe magazines, catalogues, tiles, anything that you may have lying around the house that you can utilise, perhaps your partner. And then we just draw the toes back. Notice if your knees bend. That usually tells us that the calf muscles are a little bit tight. So feel free to just let your legs be where they need to be with the toes drawing back. Move the heart out into space. Close the eyes. Now with your eyes closed, I can now get away with not doing so much on the camera. But we may think here about bringing the ribs in towards the spine. And notice the feeling that that has. As you bring the ribs in, you feel like you're curving, and you feel that maybe there is space to move the backs of your arms to the sides of the room. And then let that whole surface, like you're dragging a cape forwards, or the night sky in Fantasia, if you have that reference available to you. When we're coming forwards, just investigating the tension in the back of your legs. Now don't be too concerned if you barely move. This position is quite a square, straightforward stretch, so it may be that really you find there's a lot of tension in the lower spine or the hamstrings or the buttocks. All of that will contribute to restricting this forward bend. So don't worry if it's not too far, as long as there is sensation. That's the most important thing. Then you know you're creating change. Moving out into space. Now, how can we even feel lightness in this position? So perhaps think of more energizing legs into floor. Think of moving the thigh muscles into the depths of the hip sockets. How does that help you feel like Superman or Superwoman to fly out over those thighs? And then gently relax the legs. Walk the hands back towards the pelvis. Lift your bum away from your brick or blocks or whatever. Move the block aside, feet into the floor, arms reach out into space. Now from here, take your time, rectus abdominis engaged, so I'm moving pubic bone towards the ribs here, and I'm rolling down. And as I come down, try and find a way to stay loose in those distant parts of the body. Find your way down onto your back. Knees come into your chest. Take a little rock, perhaps even reach through and take a hold of the outer edges of the feet and take a little rocking happy baby. It's a lovely position to help open up inner thighs, backs of legs. Anyone with issues in the lower part of the spine, particularly in the morning, then happy baby is a really great one. Just to open up around that sacroiliac joint, which often is an epicenter of tightness in lower backs. And then from here, just let those feet float into the floor. Now we have our options here within this position. You may prefer to go for a Baddha Konasana with the knees opening, the feet placed together for your relaxation. Very nice option. Or you may prefer just to let your legs lengthen out into space. Arms come down by the side. Now, in preparation for our Shavasana, just draw your toes back towards your knees as much as you can, because sending your heels far away from you and really engaging into those legs. Now, let's do the same action with the hands. Keeping the legs going, I'm flexing the fingers back, pushing the heels away, like I'm Spider-Man and I'm trying to shoot my web across the room. And I'm thinking also doing the same thing in the spine. Tailbone moves away from the top of the skull. Breathing in, and let all of it go. Fall into the ground. Have that feeling of cascade, of gravity, falling through your structure like a thick liquid.
And as that liquid flows through the structure of your body, it carries away the stagnant energy from your night's sleep. And with each inhalation that you take here within your reclined position of Shavasana, we're carrying in refreshing, revitalizing energy. In yoga we refer to that as prana. But for you it may make more sense as something maybe kinetic energy or oxygen. But drawing that energy into your body. So Shavasana, not an opportunity to necessarily go back to sleep, but very much an opportunity to charge the batteries of the body. Beyond the sound of my voice, what other sounds can you hear around you? Take this opportunity to greater connect, not only to your own body through the practice of asana, but connect to your environment. Can you hear the sounds perhaps of birds outside? Perhaps the sound of the gentle winds that we have here at the moment. What information can you gather about your environment simply through the sounds? Gently start to guide that reach of your hearing back towards the body. Can you hear the sound and movement of your breath? Can you hear perhaps even the sound of your own beating heart? Let's start to reanimate the body. Wiggling fingers, wiggling toes. And as we start those actions, really knowing the movement that we make. So conscious movement, feeling the action that you create. Maybe bending elbows, maybe even moving from the hips, rolling the hips. Send the arms overhead and take a stretch out. Before perhaps rolling here onto your left hand or right hand side, whichever one feels the easiest and less restricted. And then keeping the neck relatively relaxed here, just find your way up, out from the ground. And bring yourself back to a comfortable seated position, perhaps bringing back your props, if that works best here to help you sit comfortably. And then we have the options here within our seated position. As we draw the video to a close, perhaps you would like to remain in this position and just enjoy being sat comfortably, just letting your mind wander for a few more minutes, or maybe you draw your practice to a close with me this morning, bringing the palms of the hands together in front of the heart, taking a steady breath in. Feeling that breath flood all the way down into the pelvis, and slow, easy exhalation, find ease as your skull floats skyward. And thanking yourselves for your practice this morning. Thank you all very much. Namaste to everyone at home, and have a lovely remainder to your day. So coming up this evening, we have a fabulous forest-inspired yoga class with Isabel, who's currently sitting behind the camera. For those who've never experienced a forest yoga class, I highly recommend come and give that a try this evening. It's a style of yoga, particularly here in Rotterdam, that we're not necessarily so aware of. And for those of you that outside in the outside world there, if you've not heard of forest yoga, take a look at it and come and have a try this evening with Izzy. Similar situation here, just a final little closing remark about donations. Any donations that you feel you want to make following your practice, just go to the links on the biographies and on our websites. Thank you all very much. Have a good day.